Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 6 of CCFR Radio on the Air. I'm your host, Rod Giltaca. Thanks for joining me again today on the show. We've got an action-packed one for you. We've got some actual good news, and I'm really excited to share that because I don't like sharing bad news with you guys. And it has to do with the buyback/confiscation project pilot in Cape Breton that the Liberals rolled out. And it's going to be interesting. Tracey and I are also going to be talking about our anniversary 1-hour special, which is coming up in the next episode. As well, there's a rally planned in New Brunswick. We're going to tell you about the reasons why you might want to attend if you live nearby. The federal budget passed, which means there'll be no election this Christmas, and why that's good for us. I'm going to pass that on as well. And we're going to have an interview with BC Conservative MLA and former police officer Mal McCall on a little bit about public safety and politics. All that and more. CCFR Radio starts right now.
CCFR Radio on the Air is brought to you by Wild TV Plus, the best hunting, fishing, and outdoor content available anywhere, anytime, on any device. Visit wildtvplus.ca.
On the 24th of November, so by the time you're watching this, this has already happened. On the 24th of November, the Saskatchewan government is coming out with legislation that will obligate provincial or federal, this is my understanding of it, right, because I haven't seen it yet, will obligate any government if they prohibit something and they're going to seize it from someone, like, and then it's all property, that they have to pay for it, fair market value. And you're wondering, like, well, why are these gun people excited about that? There's a compensation program, all the rest of that stuff. And I'm going to tell you why. Because if you remember from the last episode, I was sitting in a technical briefing with public safety myself, and public safety themselves told me and everyone else, the other 60 people that were in there, they're basically going to rip everybody off. They're going to get people to tell the government what they have, and then they're not going to pay them, right? And I'm almost all of the people that tell the government what they have. So Saskatchewan was like, okay, if you're going to seize property, you're going to pay for it. And apparently this is within the rights of the provinces to enact. So why is this good for gun owners? Well, there's a couple of reasons. When it comes to this compensation program, the buyback, as it were, the confiscation program, the government intends to rip everybody off so they don't have to pay anything. But in Saskatchewan, if this works, they'll have to pay everybody in Saskatchewan. That's like, oh, okay. Well, if it works in Saskatchewan, Alberta will adopt it too. We're working with Alberta. That's 2 Canadian provinces. And if it works in Saskatchewan, Yukon will do it too, because they just elected elected a clear majority Conservative government called the Yukon Party. And they vowed to push back against the feds. So now we'll have 2 provinces and a territory. And that's probably enough on its own, but I'll be working with every province in Canada to enact the same legislation. And again, if you look at it from a province that is pro, buyback, let's say, this doesn't stop them. This is not going to impede the buyback at all. It's only standing up for your own citizens in your province to make sure that the government is going to follow through with its promise to pay for all of these guns, not steal them under threat of prison from all of these people, right? So even if you're Ontario or BC, BCs are like, yeah, let's get all these guns from everybody. At least stand up for your citizens so they get paid as promised. Interesting, right? Really interesting. So I guess at the end of the day, this could stop this whole program. Could stop it in its tracks because the government's sitting back going, we're going to end up paying $4 to $5 billion to do this. I don't know that we can do that. And interestingly enough, let me leave you with this. If these guns in the hands of people like me was such a threat to public safety, A, it wouldn't take them 6 years to roll out a buyback as promised, right? This would have been a priority. And B, if they wanted to do this and make sure everyone participated, they would just pay everybody. They would tell everybody, hey, it's just, this thing's going to cost $5 or $6 billion because that's what it should cost to actually do it. You know what, everyone, we're going to have to bite the bullet on this one, so to speak. We're going to have to pay for these people didn't do anything wrong. They're going to get paid for their property, just like we said. And they would pay out the $6 billion and everyone would be made whole for the Liberals' policy choices. If it was really about safety, everyone would get paid for that. Anyway, something to think about. Kind of interesting, right? So thank you, Saskatchewan, for leading the way on that. We'll see if that legislation holds up. But anyway, time will tell. I just wanted, that's some good news. There's some things moving. There are pieces on the board moving, and they're moving in our direction. All right. That's it. I'm out of time for now. When we come back, we're going to have Tracey Wilson on and more good news. All right, we are back, and via the internet, we've got Tracey Wilson of the CCFR. Wilson!
There it is. You're back. Your voice is back.
I am back. Well, I'm in a good mood. We have some fairly good news, and then we have some really good news. So, yeah, very exciting.
Yeah.
Okay. We're like, huh? What?
Yeah.
All right, we got a ton of stuff to go through in a very short period of time, so we're going to just rifle right through it. So hopefully everyone can keep up. Under the banner of fairly good news, the budget passed today, because we're recording this on Monday. It's about a week later for you at watching here on the TV show. But the budget passed, which means we will not have an election right now.
Yeah. And that is good news, because I think if we went to an election right now, Carney would probably end up with a majority government. So he narrowly avoided that. The vote was 170 to 168. 2 NDP MPs abstained. That's MP Gord Johns and Laurie Idloot. And basically all the Liberals voted for it and everyone else voted against it. So yeah, no Christmas election, and we will move forward.
Yeah, we don't want an election for 6 months to a year. So for a
we
number
need
of
some
reasons,
time.
if we had more time, we could talk about it, but we just don't this time around. Okay,
Yeah.
now on to some really good news and fun news. We have some numbers out of the pilot project for the buybacks, also known as the confiscation program, pilot in Cape Breton, if you remembered. And so go through that with us, Ms. Wilson.
Well, you'll remember this was a 6-week pilot program that the Liberals had paid the Cape Breton Regional Police $104,000 to carry out. And the idea was they wanted to collect 200 of these banned guns to test their system out before they roll the program out nationwide. So they had a 6-week period, and they were looking to get 200 guns. They were worried they'd get more, but they're only taking 200. Well, the results are in. They achieved a grand total of 22 firearms. So even if you forget all the extra money that the Liberals gave Cape Breton Police for security and everything else for the rally that we did there, and use just that $104,000 payout, that means they were paid about $4,727 per gun before paying the owners for them. So I'm not sure how that resonates with the police chief's brother-in-law, who's the Liberal MP for the area, but I know that that resulted in a whole bunch of other things happening. So today there was a notice sent out from Cape Breton Police Chief Robert Walsh. He is resigning and retiring from his position. This comes days after the pilot program ended. 35 years in policing. What a terrible way to end your career. So it's no wonder that he resigned, though, with a grand total of 22 firearms being turned in.
Yeah, and that was from over 3,100 licensed gun owners in that area, I believe, in the jurisdiction of the buyback. So our friend Buyback Bobby Walsh ended up retiring in what I would consider a bit of disgrace. Even his officers were all outraged at his actions there. And I think that's what happens when law enforcement doesn't want to align with good law-abiding citizens in their area. They're supposed to stand up for those people, not work with the federal government to do immoral things against them, right? So anyway,
Yeah.
a little bit of justice, and we'll take those small wins when we can get them.
You'll remember that the police union representing the officers actually put out a statement the day after the rally saying that this was a unilateral decision by the chief. There was no consultation from members, and they didn't support it. So, yeah.
From the chief and his brother-in-law and Gary and Nanda Sangri. Okay.
Right.
Now, they had a little dinner party, and that's what they decided to do. Okay, so Atlantic Canada is still in the sights of the federal government to try to roll out the next portion of all this. And they're going to try that still, I think, in PEI next, but there's a rally scheduled in New Brunswick.
Yeah, that's right. Monday, November 24th at 4 p.m. at the Bosetown Community Dome in Bosetown, New Brunswick. This is the geographical center of a very small province. Shadow Minister for Hunting, Fishing, and Conservation, Blaine Calkins, will be there. Conservative MP Mike Dawson, the former New Brunswick Minister of Natural Resources Mike Holland, and the CCFR. Excuse me, our New Brunswick Director Jason Gallen will be there. They'll be giving away prizes to anybody who's a CCFR member. You can enter to win in the draw. If you're not a member, don't worry. He'll sign you up on the spot. But it should be a great time. And it's never a bad time to get out and oppose this gun grab.
Okay, so let me get this straight. You get to fight the man. You get to help the CCFR. You get to win prizes, and you get to hang out with other gun owners.
Yeah, like why wouldn't you go?
Why wouldn't you go?
Yeah, go.
Just go.
Just go.
What was the date? What was the date again?
Yeah, November 24th at 4 p.m. Boys Town Community Dome. It's on our social media as well.
Awesome. Okay. Last thing, the next episode is episode 200 for the CCFR Radio podcast. It's not a significant number for the TV show, but it's really our 10th anniversary show that you're going to see here on Wild TV in the next episode. And you are coming to Chilliwack, British Columbia, to be with me here in the studio to do that show in person.
Yeah, that's right. I am going to get to step foot in the infamous studio. We will sit down. We'll do an interview. Maybe I'll interview you. I don't know. But we're going to reminisce. We're going to tell some stories that we've never told before. We're going to talk about some of the crazy wins and losses, maybe some of the missteps. I mean, I've never done anything wrong, so that part must be about you. But yeah, we're just going to tell some great CCFR stories, all the stuff we've done, all the crazy adventures, and maybe where do we go from here? So should be good.
It will be awesome, in fact. So
yes.
Now, as far as I know, Wild TV is giving us a full hour. So the next episode of CCFR Radio on the air will not be half an hour. It will be a full hour special. So when we come back, we will have the interview that I promised with Mal McCall, which is a really interesting one. And thanks for the update. And I guess we will see you here in Chilliwack, British Columbia in the next one, Ms. Wilson.
We will see you then.
Mal McCall, thanks for coming today. You are an MLA in West Kelowna Peachland for the Conservative Party of British Columbia. Mm-hmm. And you spent 19 years as an RCMP officer as well. Was that in the Okanagan?
Yeah, it was just through the Okanagan Valley.
Okay. Did you spend your whole career there?
I did. I grew up there, and I was posted to Kelowna, my first post, and then transferred to Lake Country, then West Kelowna. Actually, before I joined, I was an auxiliary constable in Penticton as well. I did do other things as well, like I was with the TAC team for Southeast British Columbia. Nice. So I'd travel all over for not necessarily a lot of riots that we were dealing with because there wasn't a lot going on, but I would be supplemented kind of into areas where they needed more policing, particularly like wildfires and floods and natural disasters.
Okay, so as an MLA, you're having some interactions with the government here in British Columbia, and we in British Columbia, just like many other provinces in Canada, have a public safety problem. Lots of repeat violent offenders, and you've had some exchanges. We found you through a couple of videos and some interviews that you did. But basically, the one that caught our eye was you had a concern, or moreover, police officers have a growing concern, and you highlighted it about their safety on the job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm also now the critic for public safety and Solicitor General here, and having the background in policing, I still do talk to a lot of officers that I worked with, still have that connection, and are chatting with them. And of course, there seems to be, over the last several years that I've been involved with politics, there's been a bit of a change in policing, what they're seeing. So I have that connection, still chatting with them. And what happened was in September, I believe it was towards the end of September, our province held the law enforcement memorial in Victoria at the legislature. And I was there for that. And there was police officers, law enforcement from all across the province there. And I had some conversations with some of them there. And I had someone actually tell me, and I had never heard this before, but they said, I mean, you look in the news, right? You see shootings, you see stranger on stranger violence, you see crime, severity that I didn't get to experience as a police officer. It was quite a bit less than what we're seeing now. And the conversation I had with the officer was that they're actually concerned for their safety. This officer had said that. I had never heard a police officer say that to me before. And and he was talking about just the severity of crime, just the fact that there's more severe weapons out there, like firearms, this type of thing. We have gang crime out there. We've got the high-level international drug trafficking precursors coming in, which that's organized crime and high-level crime. We have Bishnoi gang was kind of just recently by the federal government. They were named a terrorist organization operating in British Columbia. So crime has, from when I was an officer, which is just a few years ago now, has completely changed. Some of these things I didn't have to go through. It wasn't a thing in the province. So I found that I was pretty concerned when I heard that. Like I said, I never had a police officer say that to me before, and just what they're seeing. I think they're out there doing a good job. They're working hard, but it's just, there's certainly a shift here.
Well, there's a wave of crime and violence and chaos and mayhem. Like it's been primarily, I think, in the last 10 years, probably more specifically in the last 6 or 7 years. Mm-hmm. And many different police services have said it's a result of the feds, liberal federal government's Bill C-5 and C-75 mm-hmm. back a number of years ago. Mm-hmm. I mean, we had that full auto shooting, right? That famous full auto shooting
yes.
in White Rock.
That's right.
And that was really something to see.
Yeah.
It was a bit of a reality check.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there used to be back before Liberals, before 2015, back when Stephen Harper was Prime Minister, I was an officer then, so I know quite well the criminal code even had offenses where there was mandatory minimum offenses, and it was about public safety. I mean, to your point, I've had conversations locally in my community in the Okanagan, and I mean, you talk to a police officer anywhere, they all say exactly what you've said. They say they arrest someone, could be a very serious charge, could be a violent offense in the streets where the police have concerns for public safety. They arrest them, they do up the report to Crown Counsel, they forward it off to Crown. Before the ink is dry on the police report, these people are back out on the streets, mm-hmm. and then that's 1 time, 3 times a day, 7 times a day, 20 times in a week. You hear these numbers where you might have like 10 people that do 1,000 interactions with the police, perhaps even criminal offenses, and they're not being held. That's just my mind. I can't really comprehend that. I mean, how do we solve the problem if we're just releasing people all the time? And, when I was still in as an officer, it had just changed. So I was just at the beginning of it. But to see where it is now and the officers that are out there on the streets doing their job, they're working hard, and I think they do a good job. The problem is you can put all the money you want in the world on policing, and if we're not holding violent repeat offenders where there's public interest to hold this person in custody, the police, I mean, how demoralizing must that be as an officer that you're out there sometimes risking your life going to a call to protect the public, and they're out before the ink is dry on the report.
And they're laughing.
Yeah.
They're just laughing at us.
Yeah. I've had conversations probably about 6 months ago now or so with people that were with BC Corrections, and they said that some of our facilities in BC, you would assume if we're not putting anyone in jail that they must be full, the jails must be full, and they said there's 60 to 70% vacancy in some of these jails. Now,
I didn't know that.
That info is dated, but as I said, it wasn't just yet last week, but I've had a couple people in the provincial jail system that have said that, and a lot of people think, oh, well, we must not have enough jail room. And of course, to your point, these bills that the federal government have brought in have really limited just holding people in custody. So there's a lot of parts to this that are moving. But of course, the bills that you spoke of, these are amendments to the criminal code, that's federal. But that's where laws are created and so on in that sense. But the administration of justice is 100% provincial.
All right, we are back. Now, as usual, I only have you for about 2 minutes and 15 seconds. So the most important stuff has to go first, which is Field Officer of the Month for October 2025 is our great friend, Harvey Anstey from Calgary, Alberta. Harvey, thank you so much for all your work. And if you don't remember what you get for being Field Officer of the Month, you get a year's free subscription from CATF, otherwise known as Canadian Access to Firearms, donated every month by our great friend Donovan Dewis over there. Thank you, Donovan. And a $100 promo code to the CCFR's online store, as well as recognition here on the television show and also on the CCFR radio podcast online. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention is don't forget about the CCFR's clearance section. So if you want to get CCFR merch at a screaming great price, we actually have a lot of inventory that is in the clearance section right now that we're looking to move at smoking prices. So go to ccfr.ca, click merch shop, scroll over to clearance, and you'll find all that merchandise there. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention is just a reminder. I may have mentioned it in the last episode, but on Remembrance Day, on November 11th, we posted on our YouTube channel an interview with me and Chris Kopp. He's the owner of CTOMS Inc. up in Edmonton, and he was also a member of the Canadian Forces who was there on the ground during the Tarnack Farm incident, where an American F-16 dropped a 500-pound bomb on our guys. And I think it's a 28-minute interview. It's his firsthand account of what happened there, and I find that it was an uncomfortable interview, but sometimes the most uncomfortable conversations are the most valuable. So it really is a story to hear. And I think it's important that people hear it. So if you go to the CCFR's YouTube channel, check out that interview that I did with Chris Kopp. It's really, really worth every minute watching. So anyway, I'd encourage you to do that. Other than that, thanks everyone for watching. If you want to help the CCFR, you can become a member or donate at ccfr.ca. Thanks everyone for watching. Really appreciate it. Take care, and we'll see you in the next one.